It was one of those nights when the rain feels alive, like it's trying to erase the world around you. Midnight, empty highway, windshield wipers thrashing uselessly. The road was a slick black ribbon swallowed by darkness on both sides, nothing but endless fields and storm. And then I saw him. At first, just a figure blurred by rain. A man, standing completely still on the shoulder of the highway. He wore a long, bright yellow raincoat, the kind fishermen wear, glowing unnaturally against the gray storm. His hood was pulled low, his arms hanging stiff at his sides. I slowed slightly, expecting to see a stranded car. But the road was empty. No hazards, no lights. Just him. As my headlights swept over him, details sharpened. His face was tilted down, hidden under the hood. Dark strands of hair plastered to his skin. And down the front of the yellow slicker, red lines streaked endlessly, like rivers of blood pouring from his face. What made my stomach drop was that the rain didn't wash it away. It just kept running, thick and steady. He didn't raise a hand. Didn't step forward. Didn't signal for help. He only stood there, as if he'd been waiting for me. Every instinct screamed at me to drive on, but guilt gnawed at the edges. What if he needs help? Still, something primal in me, something older than reason, told me this was wrong. I gripped the wheel, foot heavy on the gas, eyes locked ahead. I glanced in the side mirror as I passed. That was when his head lifted. For a split second, in the wash of my taillights, his face was clear. His eyes were wide and hollow, his mouth gaping in a frozen scream. No sound, just that awful silent agony burned into his features. My chest seized. I nearly swerved. By the time I blinked, he was gone, lost in the storm behind me. Relief lasted only 10 minutes. Because there he was again. Same yellow coat. Same bowed head. Standing still on the shoulder, as if I'd never passed him at all. My pulse spiked. This was impossible. I hadn't stopped, hadn't turned. I'd been going 60, maybe faster. No one could have gotten ahead of me on that deserted road. Yet there he was. I passed him again. And again, the same moment, the head lifting, that silent scream staring after me. And again. And again. 4 times I drove by him. 4 times I felt the air thicken with dread, like the storm itself was closing in around me. With each sighting, the fear grew heavier until my breathing turned shallow, and I couldn't tell if the pounding in my chest was my heart or the rain hammering the roof of my car. By the 5th, I could barely keep my hands steady on the wheel. The 6th broke me. He wasn't on the shoulder this time. He was standing in my lane. The rain blurred everything except that glowing yellow coat dead center on the blacktop. I slammed the brakes, tires shrieking as the car hydroplaned. The headlights lit him up, and his face was different now. Not a scream. A grin. Wide. Hungry. My car spun, fishtailing across the wet asphalt until I was facing the wrong direction. For a heartbeat, the beams pinned him square in the light. And then, as if the rain itself swallowed him, he dissolved into nothing. Gone. I sat there, shaking, unable to breathe. Outside was only water and darkness, no sign of the man I'd nearly killed myself trying to avoid. I don't know how long I stayed on that highway, engine running, rain hammering the roof. Long enough for the storm to soften, long enough for the sky to pale and the sun to bleed over the horizon. Only then did I drive again. I've never told anyone about that night. People would laugh, say I was tired, imagining things. Maybe they'd even suggest I dozed off. But I know what I saw. And sometimes, when I wake in the middle of the night, I swear I hear it again, the soft patter of rain inside my room. And in the corner of my vision, a figure in a yellow coat. Silent. Waiting. There's a strange kind of exhaustion that only comes when you've been driving alone for hours at night. The world folds into the hum of tires on asphalt, the faint glow of dashboard lights, and the dark blur of trees racing past. That's where I was, halfway across the state, eyelids growing heavier with every mile marker I passed. When I saw the glowing sign for a rest stop, I decided I couldn't push it any further. Just a quick nap, I told myself. Better a break in a parking lot than falling asleep at the wheel. The place was deserted. A row of sodium lamps buzzed over cracked pavement, casting that sickly orange glow that makes shadows seem alive. I parked near the bathrooms, locked the doors, and reclined my seat. The air smelled faintly of wet concrete, like rain had passed earlier. I pulled my jacket tight and drifted off. I don't know how long I was out before something woke me. Tap. 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 At first, I thought it was the wind. But then it came again, deliberate, steady, on the rear window glass. My stomach tightened. Slowly, I reached up and adjusted the mirror. That's when I froze. A face. Pressed against the glass of the trunk window, staring in. But it wasn't right. At first glance, it looked human, eyes, mouth, nose. But the features were blurred by hair. Not a beard, not even messy hair, but thick strands covering the face completely, like an animal. Through the curtain of matted black hair, I could see the glint of wide, unblinking eyes. I shot upright, hard hammering. The face pulled back instantly, melting into the shadows outside. For a long moment, there was only silence. My breaths came fast and shallow, ears straining for any sound over the distant buzz of the lamps. Then, a scrape along the side of my car. Fingernails or claws. Slowly dragging. I flicked the headlights on. The beams illuminated nothing. Just empty pavement stretching to the bathroom building. Trying to steady my shaking hands, I grabbed my keys, ready to start the engine. That was when the sound changed. Not scraping. Climbing. Metal groaned above me as something shifted on the roof of the car. I didn't want to look. I wanted to slam the gas and get out, but my body wouldn't obey. Then, through the windshield, I saw it. A figure crawling across the hood on all fours. The light from the lamps above revealed just enough. It moved like a person, but too fast, too fluid, limbs bent at angles that seemed wrong. Its arms and legs were long, hair spilling down to cover its face, dangling like wet fur. It clung to the car like an animal, head jerking as if sniffing the air. When it raised its head, I finally saw the mouth. The lips were stretched too far, bearing teeth that seemed too sharp to belong to a person. And then it did something that turned my stomach. It wagged its head side to side, like a dog. I fumbled with the ignition, jamming the key in, praying the engine would roar to life. The figure slammed its hands down on the windshield, smearing streaks of mud or blood across the glass. The car shook under the weight. The engine caught. I threw the gear into drive and hit the gas. The thing slid back off the hood, tumbling into the pavement as I sped toward the exit. Relief surged through me, until the car lurched violently to the side. The wheel. Something was wrong with the wheel. I glanced at the dash. The tire pressure warning glowed red. One of my tires was flat. My heart dropped. Had it done something to the car before I woke up? Had it punctured the tire while I was sleeping? The car struggled, wobbling as I pressed forward. I kept my eyes locked on the road, refusing to check the mirrors, refusing to see if it was following. The rest stop disappeared behind me into the night, but the sound didn't. That tapping. Soft, deliberate taps. Not from outside this time. From underneath. The flat tire forced me to slow, crawling down the highway at 30, hazard lights blinking in the rain-slicked dark. I wanted to pull over to run, But where could I go? What if stepping out was exactly what it wanted? The tapping stopped. I drove until I saw the lights of a truck stop. My hands ached from gripping the wheels so tight. I pulled in under the bright floodlights, heart still slamming against my ribs. I got out, legs shaking. The night air was sharp, cold, full of gasoline and fried food smells. I circled the car, forcing myself to check the trunk window, the roof, the hood. Nothing. But the back left tire, it wasn't just flat. It had been slashed. A long, jagged tear cut across the rubber. Someone, or something, had made sure I wouldn't get far. I never saw the figure again. But I've never stopped wondering. Was it a person? Some deranged drifter who lived like an animal? Or something else entirely? And the worst question, if the tire hadn't blown so quickly, if I'd pulled off onto another empty stretch of road instead of reaching that truck stop, would I have been forced to step out? And would I have crawled back into my car, or never been seen again? It was late fall, the kind of night where the cold creeps into your bones no matter how high you crank the heater. I was a college student, driving back from a weekend visiting my parents. The drive wasn't long, just 3 hours, but it felt endless that night. The highway stretched empty, gas station lights few and far between, the occasional 18-wheeler groaning past. Around midnight, I stopped at a lonely gas station just outside a small town. The kind of place where the fluorescent bulbs flicker, moths swarm the lights, and the smell of old oil clings to the air. That's when I saw him. He stood by the ice machine, hunched slightly, a man in his late 40s, maybe 50s. His clothes looked wrong for the season, a thin button-up, dirty slacks, and shoes worn down to nothing. His face was pale, almost gray, and his eyes, they looked hollow, as if he hadn't slept in days. When I stepped back toward my car, he turned and asked in a low voice, almost a whisper, "Headed east?" I hesitated. Every safety lecture I'd ever been given ran through my head. Don't pick up strangers, especially not at night. But he looked desperate. I told myself it was just a ride. Just one human being helping another. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Hop in." He slid into the passenger seat without a word. The door shut softly, almost too softly, and he folded his hands in his lap like a child waiting for instruction. We pulled onto the road. For miles, silence filled the car except for the hiss of the tires on wet pavement. I tried a few times to break it. "Cold night, huh?" No reply. "Where you headed?" Nothing. The only sound was his slow, deliberate breathing. It was when I finally turned my head, at a red light, that I noticed something. His clothes weren't just dirty. They were stained, blotched darker in patches that looked too much like dried blood. His face, partly lit by the dashboard glow, wasn't pale from exhaustion. It was pale like stone. Lifeless. And his eyes weren't hollow. They were locked on me. I gripped the wheel tighter, trying to mask the shiver crawling down my spine. That's when he finally spoke. "They said I deserved it," he muttered. My throat went dry. "What?" "They all said I deserved it. My brother. My wife. My boy." His voice cracked like ice breaking. "They took them from me. One by one." I swallowed hard. "Who did?" He leaned closer, the air turning cold as his lips nearly touched my ear. "The same ones who'll take you." A chill ran straight through me, and I stomped on the gas the moment the light turned green. My heart hammered as the car surged forward, headlights slicing through the empty road. I couldn't bring myself to look at him again. I just stared ahead, telling myself it was a trick, a drunk, someone messing with me. But the air in the car had shifted, heavy, suffocating. After a few miles, curiosity, or maybe fear, got the better of me. I flicked a glance to the right. The seat was empty. No indentation, no dampness, nothing. The passenger door was shut, locked, as if no one had ever touched it. My pulse roared in my ears. I told myself he must have slipped out at the light, though I knew I would have noticed. I told myself I was overtired, hallucinating. But then, faintly, under the hum of the road, I heard it again. A whisper, from nowhere and everywhere at once. "You'll be taken too." I drove the rest of the way with the radio blasting, windows down, cold air burning my lungs. Anything to drown out the silence. I never offered another ride to a stranger again. But every time I see an empty seat beside me in the dark, I wonder how long it will stay that way. I was driving back from a friend's wedding late one Saturday night. It was supposed to be a straight 4-hour trip along the interstate, nothing complicated. The kind of drive where you set the cruise control, throw on some music, and let your thoughts drift. Around midnight, my GPS chimed. "In half a mile, take exit 6. I frowned. Exit 6 wasn't on this route. I'd driven this highway dozens of times, and I didn't remember an exit 6 anywhere along it. But I figured maybe it was rerouting me around construction or traffic. I trusted the machine more than my memory. So I took the exit. The ramp curved down into pitch black woods, the kind of dark that swallows your headlights whole. The road was narrow, cracked, with weeds growing up through the asphalt. I turned down the radio, suddenly uneasy, but told myself it was fine. GPS reroutes all the time. 5 minutes later, I noticed something strange. The road looped gently to the right, then climbed back up toward the highway again. And there it was, the same green reflective sign. Exit 6. I laughed nervously. Maybe I'd taken a wrong turn on the detour and circled back. No big deal. The GPS, however, repeated calmly, "In half a mile, take exit 6. I brushed it off and followed again. This time, though, I was paying attention. The trees leaned closer, branches clawing at the edges of my high beams. The air inside the car felt heavier, like the heater was blowing stale, damp air instead of warmth. And then, the loop completed again. The ramp, the cracked asphalt, the trees. The same exit 6 sign, glowing back at me like an accusation. My stomach turned. I slowed down, rolling past the sign, eyes darting for any road I might have missed. But there wasn't one. Just black forest pressing in on both sides. That's when I saw it. A car. Parked on the shoulder, just past the sign. Its hazard lights blinked in the darkness, orange flashes cutting through the gloom. I slowed, instinct telling me to help, but something else, a deeper, colder instinct, told me to keep going. Still, curiosity clawed at me. As I crept closer, my headlights illuminated the interior. There was someone in the driver's seat. Not just someone. Me. My exact face stared back at me through the windshield. Same hair, same stubble, same tired eyes. My doppelganger sat perfectly still, hands resting on the wheel. The orange hazard lights made his skin look waxy, inhuman. My chest went tight. My foot slammed the gas, tires squealing as I tore past him. I didn't dare look again. But the GPS voice, calm and unbothered, followed me. "In half a mile, take exit 6. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles cracked. My eyes burned from not blinking. I told myself it was exhaustion, stress, an overactive imagination. But then, up ahead, the trees parted, and I saw the reflective green sign again. Exit 6. And this time, there were 2 cars parked by the sign. Both with hazard lights blinking. Both with me in the driver's seat. I slammed the brakes so hard the seatbelt cut into my shoulder. My car fishtailed before skidding to a stop in the middle of the road. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, and my breath came in shallow gasps. The hazard lights blinked in unison, 2 sets of me staring back. And I swear I saw one of them smile. Just barely. a twitch of the mouth. I threw the car in reverse, tires screaming as I backed away, but no matter how far I went, the road stretched on endlessly. The trees pressed closer, branches scraping the sides of my car like fingernails. The GPS chimed again. "You've arrived at your destination." The screen was blank. Just my car icon, floating in gray nothing. And then the engine died. Darkness swallowed me. No lights. No hum of the heater. No sound except the faint tick, tick, tick of the cooling engine. For a long time, I didn't move. I was frozen, hands locked on the wheel, staring at the twin hazard lights glowing like eyes in the distance. Then, through the silence, I heard the sound of a car door opening. One of them was getting out. I don't remember the next few minutes clearly. Panic took over. Somehow I managed to start the car again, slam it into gear, and gun it down the road, not caring if I destroyed the tires or drove into a ditch. I just drove. Faster than I ever had in my life. The trees blurred. The road twisted in impossible ways. My vision tunneled until all I saw was black ahead and two pinpricks of light behind me. And then, the interstate appeared. Just like that. I was back on the familiar stretch of highway, exit 7 looming ahead, my GPS flickering back to life with a normal route. No more loops. No more exit 6. I didn't stop driving until I pulled into my own apartment complex, shaking so badly I could barely lock the door behind me. I've told myself 100 times since then that it was exhaustion. Sleep deprivation. A waking nightmare. But sometimes, when I'm driving late at night and pass an exit ramp, I'll catch a glimpse of hazard lights flickering on the shoulder. And for just a second, I see a face staring back. My own. I don't usually stop. If I can muscle through a late drive, I do it. Coffee, bad playlists, windows cracked even in winter. But that night the road fought me. The interstate pulled long and elastic, the mile markers seemed to repeat, and I felt my eyelids doing that heavy blink where a second too long could mean you never open them again. The neon sign hit me like a flare in fog, vacancy in red script, half the letters dead, buzzing like an electric bee. A single-story strip of doors faced the highway, each with a sunburned number plate and a metal chair that looked welded to the concrete by cigarette ash. The office was a glass box with a bell on the counter and a plastic plant photographed from life sometime in 1998. The clerk slid out from a back room when I rang. He had the washed-out look of someone who'd been awake too many nights in a row and didn't bother to pretend the job was anything other than a slow leak. Plexiglass between us. A cut-open tennis ball on a chain for the key. "One night," I said. "Just need a bed before I turn into a statistic." He took my card without smiling, slid a laminated registration form through the slot. I signed where the pen told me to. He handed me a brass-tagged key attached to the tennis ball. 17, he said. I glanced at the map taped to the counter. 17 sat all the way at the end, where the sodium lamps threw their last tired light and the parking lot sank into brush. "Anything closer?" I asked, even though I knew how this dance ended. 17's what I got. He blinked as if that was the end of his day's allotted words. The walk down the corridor felt like a mistake I was narrating to myself while making it. The carpet under the concrete breezeway had that tacky give, like it remembered every footstep anyone had ever taken on it. Bugs committed slow suicides against the lights. Somewhere, water ran in a wall, thin and constant, like a nosebleed. Room 17's door stuck, then let go suddenly, so I stumbled a step inside. The air hit me like a hand, bleach layered over something sweet and rotted. The lamp by the bed threw a yellow that made every color look sick. And the floor, at first I thought it was old varnish, was blotched and wide, irregular patches of a jaundiced stain, a map someone had spilled and never quite cleaned, tacky under my soles when I shifted. The bed wasn't made. No, that's not right. The bed was unmade, which is different. The sheets had been pulled back and left pulled back, a dent still impressed where someone had been lying not long ago. On top of the spread, scattered like a parade after everyone's gone home, lay a mess of adult toys. Not in packaging. Not discreet. Glossy silicone, cheap vinyl, plastic. Some still slick with something. Some dusted with the yellow stuff from the floor. One buzzing gently until I unplugged it from the wall like I just grabbed an eel. I stood there, hands still on the doorknob, and had the clean, sharp thought, leave. All my brain cells lined up and held a vote and unanimously agreed. The bathroom door was ajar. From inside came the faintest gurgle. I told myself it was the toilet tank refilling. I told myself a lot of things fast enough to pass for courage and stepped closer. The tub was half full. The water cloudy and scummed, as if hair conditioner and skin oil had formed a truce on the surface. Clumps of hair floated in loose islands, long, short, dark, two colors wound together. Around the drain, brown-red streaks radiated like spokes from where something had sat and bled and been convinced to move. On the porcelain lip, 3 black bobby pins formed a neat triangle. The mirror above the sink held a single fingerprint, high, as if someone had reached up while standing in the tub. The medicine cabinet door had been removed. Not missing. Removed. The screws lay on the counter in a line like punctuation. Behind the empty rectangle, the drywall was cut out and patched back poorly, edges puckered, paint the wrong shade. "Okay," I said to no one. Then louder, as if volume could rewrite the room. "Nope." Phone. I needed the office phone because mine showed one bar that toggled to none whenever I breathed. The room handset had no dial tone. It didn't even have a cord. Whoever left this place did not want anyone calling out from inside. I backed into the room, watching the bathroom like it could move. The toys on the bed made small, intimate shadows in the yellow light. In the corner, near the air conditioner, a black duffel sat open. Not mine. Inside, a roll of duct tape, a box of latex gloves, 2 zip ties joined to make a longer one, and a travel-sized bottle of lotion with a paw-print logo that made my stomach turn in a way I didn't examine. Tucked under the duffel was a GoPro on a tiny tripod, lens cap off, pointed squarely at the bed. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I didn't want my fingerprints on anything in that room. Someone tried the door. It was small, just the barest rattle of the handle, but in a quiet room like that it sounded like an announcement. The chain I hadn't gotten around to latching swayed a little on its bracket. I stepped sideways so I wouldn't be perfectly framed in the peephole and put my eye to glass at an angle. The corridor outside was a smear of fisheye light, the far sodium lamp breathing across concrete. No shapes. No cart. No clerk pretending to do rounds. Just the buzzing fluorescent above my door going dim bright dim like a tired heartbeat. I slid the chain across. Something in the metal felt gritty, like old sugar. "Hey," I said, not sure if I was speaking to whoever had jiggled the handle or to the room itself. "I'm going back to the office. Your housekeeper missed a few things." On the way to the door, I saw it. How did I miss it? A faint black dot below the smoke detector, like the head of a nail, the hole no bigger than a pencil lead. I moved under it and looked up. A glassy bead gleamed in the center. Not a smoke detector. A camera disguised as one. The ceiling around it matted darker from the same yellow film on the floor, like something aerosolized had floated and settled. The door handle rattled again, sharper this time, like impatience. Something brushed against the crack under the door. Not a hand. Not quite. Imagine someone dragging a damp towel with their fingertips in it. That sound. That pressure. I made the decision the way you jump into cold water, with your body first. I yanked the door open until the chain caught and leaned into the gap. "Room's not ready," I said. I tried for breezy. It landed somewhere near brittle. No one there. The corridor was a mouth-breathing fluorescence. The door to 16 stood closed. The door to 18 had a "Do Not Disturb" tag turned backwards so the words faced the door. The space in front of my room was empty except for a smudge of something on the concrete, a half-moon, as if someone had set down the heel of their palm and turned it. The chain slid back with a small hiss and I stepped into the corridor. The air out here was better, but not by much. It tasted like a damp rag that had been microwaved too many times. I pulled the door shut behind me and locked it out of habit, which made me want to laugh because if the inside was the danger then I had just trapped it safely away from me. The office bell rang when I hit it, and something in my chest unclenched like it had expected silence. The clerk reappeared with the same unaffected blink. 17, I said. You need to see it. The room's someone left. While I was, my words tripped over one another like kids trying to be first. He stared at my face like he was counting freckles. "You're not in 17, he said. I held up the brass tag. 17 in stamped numbers. This. He pinched the tennis ball chain and tugged it across the counter, peering at the tag like it might confess. "That's not one of ours," he said finally. "What?" He reached under the counter, banged open a drawer, and produced a battered keyboard with empty hooks. Numbers 1 through 16, then 18 through 24. 17's hook was snapped off. A bit of glue glittered where someone had once tried to fix it and given up. 17's closed, he said. "Has been. Long time. I just came from there." My voice sounded wrong to my own ears, like there was space around it. "You checked me in. You handed me this key." He looked past me, through me, toward the glow bleeding in from the breezeway. "I gave you 15, he said slowly, like he was explaining the concept of numbers. 15's the end unit since the storm. You must have misread the tag." "I know what a 7 looks like," I snapped. It came out too loud. The plastic plant didn't blink. He slid the ledger toward me, fingers smudged with ink pointing at my signature. Room 15 in blue next to my name. The time stamp squatted beside it like a witness. "You put that," he said. "I watched you." I didn't remember writing the number at all. Only the line where my name went. Only the bell and the brass tag and the tunnel of corridor lights. "Come look," I said, and there was enough desperation in it that he sighed like a man who knew better and did it anyway. We walked down together. His keys jingled like tiny metal birds. The air along the breezeway felt colder, an AC that had given up the ghost still trying to pretend. When we reached the far end, my body did the kind of anticipatory clench you do before ripping off a bandage. There was no room 17 door. Where it should have been, there was a patched rectangle of wall, stuccoed and painted a slightly newer beige than everything around it. Someone had bolted a length of angle iron across it as if to convince the patch to behave. The concrete in front of it was cleaner than the rest by a degree you only notice when you're looking for absolutes. No cigarette burns, no gum moons, no black drips from under an AC unit that didn't exist. A space scrubbed bare of traffic. "That's not funny," I said, because apparently my brain thought there was a version of this where I'd organized a bit. Clerk stared at the wall like he was trying to remember whether it had always been a wall. "Like I said," he murmured. "Long time." He turned and walked away. That was it. No apology. No offer of a new room. No. "Sir, are you okay?" Just a man moving back toward the box where he sat out the night, the problem he could not invoice left behind him. I went after him because the alternative was to stand there craning my neck toward a blank and hoping it blinked. "Fine," I said at the counter. Refund me. I'll go sleep in my car under a freeway lamp with the doors unlocked before I stay in, whatever this is. He slid my card back without swiping it. We don't do refunds, he said. Then, looking somewhere just left of my eyes, good night. Something in me wanted very badly to bang the bell until the little spring inside it gave up. I left instead. The air outside felt a little cleaner now, like the wind had finally remembered this stretch of frontage road. My car looked exactly as I'd left it, which shouldn't be worth noting but somehow was. I unlocked it with the physical key because the fob didn't answer and sat with my hands on the steering wheel, not turning it on, letting the silence fill up the spaces in my head the way sleep was supposed to. When I pulled out, I didn't look back. That isn't a metaphor. I did not look in the rearview mirror. I kept my eyes on the road lines and the wide, baffled dark. I drove until I found a truck stop that glowed like a small town. I parked near the entrance where the cameras were obvious and the coffee was terrible. I slept in bursts with my seatbelt still on, waking each time I drifted with my heart punching me and the taste of bleach behind my teeth. In the morning, in the sharp honesty of daylight, I called the sheriff's non-emergency line and tried to tell a clean version of it. A bored voice took my name and thanked me for my concern and told me an officer would swing by. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I didn't go back to check. Weeks later, because human beings are idiots about their own fear, I googled the motel. The address pulled up a street view 3 years old. Room 17's door was there in the picture, green like the others, a 17 hung slightly crooked, a crooked brass frame around a peephole. Someone had taped a strip of cardboard over the door handle. In the photo, a housekeeping cart sits 2 doors down, a gray plastic bin atop it. Zoomed all the way in, the bin is full of coiled extension cords and a black object with a strap I can't decide is a camera or not. The office window shows a reflection of the road and something else. My eyes wanted it to be a person. Maybe it was a poster. Pixels let you tell yourself your own story. Sometimes, driving late now, a certain kind of yellow light makes my stomach turn. Bar lamps, bus station bulbs, the color of a cheap motel lamp with a shade stained by years of smoke. Sometimes I smell bleach where there isn't any, strong enough that I swallow against it and check my hands, as if it is something that could be seen. I don't think about the toys, not if I can help it. Not about the tub. Not about the camera disguised as a smoke detector, or the black dot above a bed someone had deliberately left unmade. Not about the clerk whose face didn't bother to do outrage or confusion, only economy. Not about the wall where a door was and wasn't. But when sleep is thin and the night wind rattles the kitchen vent, I see a brass tag in a cut-open tennis ball, and I hear a chain slide across a door, and from the other side a soft, damp brush across the threshold, as if someone, something, testing the gap has learned the shape of my patience. And sometimes, not always, when I reach up in the dark to find the light switch, my fingers hit drywall, and for a second I could swear I feel the smear of a fingerprint, high, where a hand once rose while standing in a tub, reaching for a mirror that was no longer there.